Avery, whose show is this? And we're live. Welcome, everybody, here to the Lakers Lounge podcast. I'm Anthony Irwin, Senior Lakers Insider for Clutch Points, joined by Raj Sapalu, my fellow Clutch Points writer. Today on the show, we are going to be talking about the Christmas that was. What an incredible game we got to tune into over the holiday. The Lakers are currently riding kind of high right now. And given the way that the season has gone, I want to try to figure out if this is just another one of the peaks in this kind of peak and valley season that the Lakers appear to be on. We'll talk a little bit about the latest trade stuff that is going around. There are some reports out there about what the Lakers are kind of looking for and all of that good stuff as well. And yeah, whatever else comes up by way of comment and super comment, we will hit on as well. But Raj, did you have a good Christmas and holiday season, or are you ready to get back to it, or like I'm currently nursing a Christmas hangover?
No, yeah, I'm excited. I was over in San Diego for the weekend, which was awesome. Watched the games. It's weird, Anthony, watching the games on mute, right? Because like you get a very different perspective of it, and I'm very glad I didn't catch the Steph Curry double bang live.
Ah, man, I was a wreck. I was like, oh fuck, this game's over. Cool.
That would probably hurt. I'm surprised. So I was watching it at this like hotel bar, and I figured San Diego would have more Laker fans, but everyone was watching around, and maybe this is just the impact of Steph Curry, and I'm just not outside as much, but a lot more Warrior fans that were at least gathered around this TV that we were watching at. But no, it was cool. Very good experience, all rested up, vacationed up, and ready to get back into a very exciting and awesome few games. I missed the Detroit game, so I'm just going to pretend that didn't happen through the week, and we just go with the last few wins that they've acquired through this win streak. And it looks like the team is playing well.
Yeah, I watched the game here at the house, and it was when Breen went double bang. I was like, "What the hell, man? Like they didn't take the lead." All right, hot take. I think Breen was rooting for the Warriors in that one. Like at one point, you know the Draymond foul that became a meme. Did you rewatch the game? Have you rewatched it with sound?
Not yet. No, I have not.
Okay, so when that happens, Doris Burke and Richard Jefferson, who were both on the call, were like laughing at how ridiculous what Draymond Green had just attempted.
Yes,
and like Mike Breen goes like,
I see it where he's coming from.
I kind of get where Draymond's coming from here. I kind of see why he would argue the call. I have never heard Doris Burke so dismissive of a concept ever. You would think Mike Breen would have been like, you know what? I think the earth is flat. And Doris Burke would have been like, she would have given that more more credence than like she offered up to Mike Breen. He was like, I kind of see where Draymond's coming from. And Doris was like, no, no, absolutely not. And then, like, I thought, this is just me. You reserve the double bang for either daggers or go ahead buckets that late, right? And when he used the double bang, I was like, this mother, you're trying to decide, who do you have points on here, Mikey? Who do you got?
He's not allowed. Mike Breen's not allowed to have points on the game. No, I mean,
you will
that was a big shot.
Mike Breen on these airwaves. No, I was just like, what the hell? Like, why are you dropping a double bang on this one? Like, it's a tie game. At best, like double bangs are when the game is over.
Yeah,
right?
No.
Games, there is no coming back from a double bang. The Lakers came back from a double bang a possession later. You completely wasted the double bang.
The best part of the double bang is Steph Curry looks miserable, like as miserable after the shot went in as it did when it left his hands. He just whether he knew and had some time machine where he knew they were going to lose the game. Not because I did hear Mike Breen say that. I think I heard it on Twitter. I think was he referring to Anthony that the Lakers weren't allowed to lock arms? Was that was that the rule he was referring to? That I guess Rui and Max Christie weren't allowed to lock arms, so it gave Draymond the authority to pull both of them down. I'm guessing that's what he saw, but he could have injured both arms there. I mean, like that was like
they weren't locked. It's the
no, they
thing.
weren't. No, but I think that's
They touched briefly.
Yes,
and then Draymond was like, "Whoa!" Like it was crazy. It was absolutely insane. And then Draymond
ridiculous.
gets up, and he had already picked up one technical. So God forbid, like it was funny. Breen was like, because who's the referee who's a meme? The referee who hates Chris Paul.
Oh, Steve Jabby. Steve.
No. Steve Jabby retired. The
Okay.
guy who's Steve Jabby is the guy, like the guy on the call, the referee who was working yesterday's game.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't remember his name, but I know who you're talking about.
Scott Foster.
Scott Foster, yes.
So like Mike Breen was like, "Oh, just so you know, Scott Foster is not afraid to throw him out." By the way, like fucking Draymond is going at Scott Foster. He's going F-bomb here, F-bomb that, you be that, you S-word that, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
And the whole time, as Mike Breen is like crediting Scott Foster for like, he'll throw you out, just so you know, he'll do it. Mike Breen, he's walking away. He's like, la, la, la. Draymond's like following him all over the court. He's like, Draymond, I can't hear that. It's not me. You can't do it. It's like he was clearly afraid to throw Draymond Green out of a Christmas Day game in the Bay. And Mike Breen is like crediting him for it. And then he drops a double bang. Mike Breen, again, icon, all of those things. I, really respect all of your work. Who did you have in that game? I just want to know. Who did your family have in that game? Like, what is going on? It was the craziest thing. I've never seen a play-by-play guy be so wrong, objectively wrong, in an opinion of a call. Like, especially Breen is like a pro referee guy. He was like, yeah, I kind of see where he's coming from. And like RJ is like a LeBron guy. I kind of get it. Like LeBron, like what RJ is gonna say there is RJ. But for Doris Burke to be like,
I disagree. Yeah.
Shut up.
Yeah, Doris said, I strongly disagree. What translated is like, you're effing wrong. Like, that's what that means. She's like the nicest person on the broadcast. She's like, you're effing wrong, Mike Breen.
She's a nice person in general. She like legitimately, like every so often people ask like, who are you most proud of, like for following you? Doris Burke is I am most proud of the fact that Doris Burke follows me. And so like she is like an absolute sweetheart of a woman, and for her to be like strongly disagree, she wrote that man a strongly worded letter like, on the air. It's like, dude, just stop talking, Mike. You're way off.
Mike Breen needs a layup bang, like something that he can say because Austin Reaves deserved more than. He lays it in on the biggest play of the game. Mike Breen just gives him and he lays it in. Like he needed like a bang for that one. But
one of the things that like he'll do that annoys me just enough, because he'll go like, if it's a layup, he'll go like, Austin Reaves off the glass. It's like, yes, you're technically right, but nobody says bank on a layup, right? Nobody calls bank on a layup. And it was like, again, Mike Breen on a three-pointer that merely tied the game. Bang! Bang! Steph Curry from way downtown. Austin Reaves makes a game-winning layup. Austin Reaves off the glass. Way to go, Austin. Game's over. We will see you guys next in New York. You're like, what?
We'll send it over to Phoenix. Yeah.
For Richard Jefferson, Doris Burke, I'm Mike Breen saying, fuck this shit. Can't believe the Warriors lost. Oh man. Anyway, we are going to on this show, like I said a second ago, we are going to be talking about the actual game that transpired on Christmas. Some of the things that we liked, obviously didn't like, and then I think we got to talk about Austin Reaves a little bit more coming out of that one as he continues to, I think, showcase why the Lakers like won't trade him for Zach LaVine.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll talk about that again, the peaks and valleys notion of this, and then some trade stuff at the very end. A quick reminder to those of you who are already tuned in, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button. If you guys are watching live here on YouTube, if you guys are watching on Twitter, head on over to youtube.com/@Lakers Lounge to find the show there. If you guys are watching in the morning and happen to just be checking out the video, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, all of that good stuff. And then obviously, if you guys are listening in the morning via podcast, hit that subscribe button wherever it is that you get your pods, preferably on Odyssey, because I am a company man. So let's talk about that Warriors game, though. Lakers beat them essentially without Anthony Davis.
Oh yeah.
And it was interesting. I thought that JJ, instead of playing Christian Coloco more minutes, essentially went small for small. And you had one of those like 5'9" and under leagues going on out there,
Mm-hmm.
which I think in some ways benefits the Lakers, because if LeBron is kind of the biggest guy on the court, you now have the biggest and most skilled player on the basketball court, which is going to be work to your benefit. Historically, doing that against the Warriors is a death knell.
Yeah.
Historically, if you try to go small with the Warriors, you are going to get run off of the court. This is a very different Warriors team. I'm pretty underwhelmed by what they have going on there. Like, honestly, between the two teams, Warriors and Lakers, both teams need a trade. I think the Warriors need one a lot more desperately than the Lakers do. But yeah, overall, I thought incredible LeBron game, but an absolute masterclass from Austin. 26 points in a triple double, game winning layup. And I thought was kind of like the heartbeat to the team after AD went down.
No, he was awesome. Before we get to Austin, Anthony, it kind of proves your theory that Coloco played really well, like in that first half. He was awesome. So
Yeah.
much so that the broadcast, like usually, backup bigs, even whatever they do, they kind of get pumped up in different ways. But the broadcast was pointing out, like, hey, Coloco's having a real big impact here. And I was kind of when I was watching, I was getting excited because I kept pushing that I think Coloco needs to actually play more. I thought his defense was fantastic. He was giving us size. And then JJ just second half went, nope, we're going to go right back to Rui at center. And I think that worked mainly because Rui was just on fire from three. He had 5 threes in the game. And if you go small, then your smalls better be able to space. And then to the point that you made that Golden State needs to trade, I'm sure their owner's like, hey, we just made one. Like, we just made a trade. We just went and got, Dennis Schroeder, who's an interesting fit for them. And I think it's still a clunky
I don't love it, honestly. I don't.
I mean, it's going to take some time. I was watching with some Warriors fans, like I mentioned earlier, and they're like, Dennis, like, stop shooting. Like, I don't know what player you think you got here. I don't know what player you think you just signed. But no, I thought Coloco played well. I thought it was a really gutsy half or a gutsy game from a lot of Laker guys. And then Austin, I think his best game of the season, maybe putting up the triple double. The assists were there. The rebounding, I think, went kind of undernoticed, the 10 rebounds that he went. And it just continues to be fascinating that, crunch time, no Anthony Davis, LeBron and Austin on the floor, and the ball's in Austin Reaves' hands. It's like, hey, up 5, go get us a good look. And he got a nice assist to LeBron, had a floater in the lane that put us up 7. And I knew better to start, counting my, eggs before they hatch with Steph Curry on the floor. But I thought he kind of almost put the game away, had the floater there, an assist to Max, I believe, that put us up 10. But no, Austin was great. And it shows that I think this team is now 15-8, Anthony, when Austin, LeBron, and AD all suit up. And AD didn't even really suit up this game, but 15-8. That's a really nice winning percentage. That would put you at the 3rd seed in the West when your core, again, I throw Austin in there, but big 3 is available. And I think you can kind of work around that. But no, Austin was awesome. And that was a really gutsy, impressive road win for a desperate Warriors team that we forced into a team meeting, like a players meeting. I guess they had a pre-players meeting and then also a post players meeting, I guess.
Am I supposed to take it as a compliment though? Like, is that a good thing? When like you lose to the Lakers and everybody's like, okay, we really need to get our shit together. What are we doing? Because like even that happening after the Sacramento thing, the Lakers beat the
Right.
Sacramento
Yeah.
Kings twice in a row, and De'Aaron Fox like looked around and was like, actually, I hate all of you. We just lost twice at home to those. Like, I'm
Yeah, the
kidding, everybody,
intervention. Yeah.
kind of, but like it's crazy, like. Like,
That's
to be that team that you lose to and have everybody be like, all right, everybody, we need to stop messing around. We
let's
can't lose
reassess.
to those guys. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah, right. No, I think what it was is you got a legendary Steph game. I mean, he
Yeah.
has, I guess
Eight
Steph has a
threes.
and he has a crazy Christmas. I guess Christmas is his kryptonite for some reason. He just does not play well on that day,
Yeah.
but he broke out of that. The step threes at the end too. There's just nothing you can do with those. I mean, the corner three and then the moving screen, I guess by Draymond, or the switch that was miscommunicated. But no, Steph was awesome, and but everyone else, Draymond had 3 points, I believe, in that one. So I guess there was stuff to reassess. But yeah, you put the Warriors in that situation, a desperate Warriors team, that's trying to find themselves. That's now, I think, 2-8 in their last 10. So no, big road win.
Yeah. It's the kind of win that like it just means a little bit more, right?
Mm-hmm.
You got the classic LeBron and Steph game where LeBron goes off, 30 points, 10 assists, and Steph drops 38 points again, eight 3-pointers made, 8 of 14. Like it was like he was on fire. And for the Lakers to win that one in the Bay, just like was one of those. Look, it was Christmas night. I was, a bottle of wine in, and I was like, you know what? I don't even care. I want to talk about this game because it was just one of those games that I figured people would want to talk about. Now, the next thing about the next part about this conversation that I want to get to here is like, so let me just read this to you, Raj. The Lakers open up the season with 3 straight wins, right?
Okay.
Peak of peaks, right?
Mm-hmm.
Pete and I record a show about whether or not this is like sustainable. Is this who the Lakers actually are? All that stuff. Then they lose the next couple in a row. 2-game losing streak. Actually wind up losing 4 out of 5 in that next little stretch. And then after they lose 4 out of 5 there, you win 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in a row. Against Philly, Toronto, Memphis, San Antonio, New Orleans, and Utah. So like not the best competition now at this point as we start to learn a little bit more about these teams. So you go after you have that high of like 6 straight wins, and then it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 losses and 3 wins over the next 11 games. So there's your peak. And then now they're currently on a nice little run of 4 wins out of their last 5,
Mm-hmm.
including that big Christmas Day one. So like to a certain extent, I kind of find myself saying like, and I think this is probably where I land. It's the middle ground here. They are probably a 500-ish team, and you are going to lose about as often as you win, and that requires, like, if you are going to have those peaks, it requires the valleys.
Mm-hmm.
But like, does this run that they're on right now feel any different to you than runs earlier in the year?
It does, because I feel like we're winning more from our defense. I think that's a little bit more sustainable. That's a little bit more of a consistent frame of winning. I said even during the win streak on this show, Anthony, when we were winning, I said this defense is just not sustainable to a high like win profile. It's a play-in win profile if you're 28th in defense. They've jumped up from that. Don't have the exact numbers. A lot of that has to do with Max Christie, who I'm sure we'll get to, as Alexis has also pointed out in the chat. Him and Austin starting, and I think LeBron being healthy. A lot of those valleys I think also came where LeBron was out or Austin was out as well. Both of those guys kind of took turns being out. AD was averaging like 30 to start the season, which I think really hid a lot of the issues that the team had. They also rode Dalton Connect, averaging 25 a game to start the year as well as a starter. They rode that, and that also hit some of the defensive issues. And another part of this is Gabe Vincent just playing better. Hit a bunch of threes against Detroit, closed against the Warriors because D'Angelo Russell obviously was out with a thumb injury. So, Gabe was able to close that game, and I thought he was good. And again, he was matched up with Dennis Schroeder a lot of times, which is a solid matchup for him. But I think those are, again, just defensive guys that you're playing. And now that Max Christie is starting and giving you two-way, wing production, not, super two-way on the offensive end, but he's playing that two-way wing role. You have Cam Reddish off the bench, who Anthony, I think, has been great in he gets to go out there and be the turbo button. I don't play video games, but like you don't get to hold the turbo button.
Yep.
Infinite. Yeah. It's not infinite, but it's like 15 to 18 minutes, but it's a really good.
He gets to play holding down the turbo button the whole time he's out there.
Right. Yes. Cam gets the press the turbo button every time that he's out there, and it's looked like it's energized him. He's having a good time, and I like that his role is just completely go get a bunch of steals, go get deflections, and just be the guy that you throw on Steph Curry for 10 minutes, and like you don't leave him. Your job is to chase over screens and get skinny around screens, which Cam is really good at. So I think the defensive floor has raised, and even without AD and Coloco's emergence, in my opinion, has helped this. Jackson Hayes continues to be out. We'll see if he returns at all or if he's on the team by that time. Christian Wood continues to be out, who I'm guessing is getting closer in some way. But Coloco's emergence as that backup five, he is more of a defensive presence out there. I think it's raised the floor along with obviously Max starting. So that's why I think this is a little bit different. And again, I pointed out the numbers 15-8 when your big three play. That's not a 500 winning percentage. That's 60 plus winning percentage. That's I think a 52 win pace. I'm not saying they're going to win at that pace, but yeah, I think that's why this feels different to me than early in the year when we were winning games when still giving up, 120, 115 a night.
I think I'm with you mostly. Mm-hmm. Like the thing with mediocre teams, as the Lakers have mostly been in the LeBron AD era in the regular season, is that like you're working with really slim margins. So all it's going to take is like a little tweak here, a little tweak there, and then all of a sudden, you're back to those rotations that were giving up 116 points a night, stuff like that. But where I do completely agree with you is the notion of like how they are being successful here. I agree completely with Alexis, who said earlier in the chat that Max has really kind of balanced out the rotation. Look, maybe it's again confirmation bias because it was something that I was calling for in the preseason, and I want to be right about it. But I do really believe, and I've been talking to like some scouts around the league, like, what are you seeing from this? And they are also saying like, yeah, Max is not some overwhelming, presence on his own that turned around the Lakers season. It's that they finally have somebody on the perimeter playing some defense. And I think like, I wanted to talk a little bit about Austin today, a little extra about Austin. This is where I think we're going to do it because Max getting into that starting group allows Austin to have the legs to get to turn the corner on Andrew Wiggins and on the last possession of a game, to have the legs he had that step back three with Draymond in his face, late in that game or late-ish in that game. That was not a shot that he was making earlier on the season. He was coming up short a lot of times on that shot. And I think, and also, by the way, it's not that like Austin is now ignoring defense. He's a very solid defender if he is your secondary point of attack or perimeter defender. He's a heady player. He understands like where to be positionally. Still makes the occasional mistake. He's not perfect by any mistake, by any definition, and he isn't athletically gifted enough when he makes a mistake to get back into the play the way that like Cam is sometimes. But like if he is your second best perimeter defender out there, and you have Max playing the way that he is, like that was the best defense I've ever seen a player play in a game where the other guy dropped 38, right? Because like Steph is just that dude, and he has been that guy for a long ass time now. He does that to great defenders all the time. but I I thought that when Max was on him, he looked comfortable. And the biggest thing is like the stuff that he's saying, it's not empty words, right? The quotes that he's given about like the challenges Max is
Mhm.
giving about, you know, what do you think about guarding Steph here? I can't wait for the challenge. I'm really excited about the challenge here. Talking about guarding De'Aaron Fox and Malik Monk. I'm really excited about the challenge and to continue these set of matchups that the Lakers and that JJ is entrusting me with. Obviously, this whole streak started for him by guarding John Morant brilliantly in that game.
Yeah.
So, like eventually I think we might see, you know, you'll see this sometimes like with starting pitching in baseball, where the first time they go through a lineup they look incredible, and then after the batters have seen them one time they start to get, you know, a little bit more
Right. Get used
comfortable
to
in the
him.
box, and then smart managers get them out of there by the time they get that third opportunity. So we'll see what this looks like as some of these absolute elite scorers that you have at the point guard position throughout the league start to get more of a feel for Max as a defender. But as it stands right now, I honestly don't even care. Like I just like having somebody out there that allows Austin to be this player offensively. That's, I think, probably more important to what the Lakers are trying to do, you know, basically freeing up Austin to play this brand of basketball than even the kind of defense that Max is playing on any of these guys in particular.
For sure. What's really cool, and yeah, Austin's been, and he had the bunch of turnovers against Detroit, but I think that's going to happen when we have the ball more. This is what I think Austin and LeBron's fourth or fifth year together. I think fourth year together. And you can kind of see both of them, uh, this like relationship that has been created because you talked about how the Lakers have been kind of, you know, a middle of the pack team and LeBron in the LeBron and AD era, and that's come with a lot of roster turnover during that time. So, you know, the relationships and the, you know, building of chemistry hasn't gotten to this level. But seeing it on the road against in Golden State, seeing Austin and LeBron be able to work off each other and just understand, okay, if the defense does this, I do this, right? You're going to hedge this ball screen, I'm going a short roll. You're going to drop coverage, it's a, you know, pick and pop for LeBron. You go under, I'm taking a three. That like progression is going over in Austin's head and LeBron's head at the same time. And, you know, I'm relating this to Max because, you know, there's a whole conversation, Anthony, about ratings and how, you know, there's a devaluing of regular season games and whatever, you know, people say to attack the NBA. But seeing a like player grow up live, like while, you know, in gameplay, and like is just the coolest thing. Watching Max make big play after big play and
Yeah.
be the guy that LeBron calls over and like, you have Steph Curry on you, you are the screener. Everyone else get out of the way. It's
Yeah.
you and me, we're dancing here. And you know, Max caught it and got a finish over Dennis.
Should
Even
have
did
been
the
anyone.
LeBron, even did the LeBron and one at the end of it, you know, which is cool.
Yeah.
And this is grown up basketball. They put Max Christie on Steph Curry and are like, it's your job to chase him around. It's on you. And I thought he was fantastic. And Steph Curry is the type of guy where you have to kind of live with the shots he takes, right? And I thought like the shots that he got up, at least the last two, were a leaning corner three that was felt like a prayer, and then the long 40-footer. But other than that, I thought they made his life as tough as you could. You didn't put him to the line very much. He didn't get others going as much. He got all his points from like just bombing threes, and I think you have to kind of live with that. But no, Max definitely helps Austin. And one part I forgot to add, Anthony, to why I think this feels more consistent. They're not switching everything. Like
Yeah.
everything's not a switch. It's, you know, more of a traditional drop coverage type defense that has guys who can chase over. Austin, you mentioned, isn't a great defender, but he fights. There's a level of competitiveness that he puts out on the defensive end. He's going to get cooked from time to time. We saw it in the Olympics, and we see it here and there when teams try to pick on him. But he does compete on that end, and Max gives you a like athlete at that, you know, other spot. So we saw it with Dalton. The league adjusts to you, and you got to adjust back. And I think Dalton's going through that process right now. Max will go through that as well. But this is a very huge step for him to becoming a starter and being a consistent like double-digit scoring starter. That's huge. And while he gives all that defensive help. So yeah, Max has been great, and I think he's like been the key that has kind of balanced everything else, and the whole roster makes a lot more sense.
Uh the Lakers, so they had that overtime loss in Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
134-132 was that final there.
Oof.
Max Christie played 31 minutes in that one. Max started the next game against Portland,
Mm-hmm.
and I believe has been in the starting group since. Since then, they gave up 98 points to Portland. They gave up 97 points in a loss, but still 97 points to Minnesota. Gave up 116 to Memphis, which was obviously a little high. No, they gave up 110 to Memphis, and then 100 to Sacramento, which is holding Sacramento to 100
Right.
points is really good. Then they did it again. They held Sacramento to 99 points there. Detroit got away from them. Bad loss there, obviously. 117 points to Detroit is a tough one, though. I think the 117 point total was more of a turnover problem than a half court defense problem. And then, gave up 113 to Golden State, but Golden State was really desperate there at the end, had some garbage time buckets and some
Yeah.
miracle threes to help get them to that total. And like you mentioned Gabe getting to match up against Dennis Schroeder, and Gabe has been fantastic recently
Yeah.
over the last like couple weeks or so. And I think that has a lot to do weirdly with Max starting and Gabe getting a role that he now gets to focus on. And he looks a lot better. Obviously Dalton has still really struggled, so he's kind of sort of out of the rotation. But if you essentially like, if I was to Rob Pelinka this at a press conference and be like, so we made a trade, we traded Dalton Connect for Max Christie, and Max has kind of balanced out the rotation. Like it really kind of has been that kind of difference. And I think D'Lo is still going to be kind of up and down as he still kind of comes to grips with this next stage of his career. But overall, like Minnesota, tough loss there. Memphis, good win. Both wins in Sacramento, I'm counting as good wins. Golden State in Golden State, good win there.
Yeah.
Like this is not the run that we saw earlier when they won 6 in a row, right? Philadelphia was a mess at the time. Toronto was trying to lose this year. Memphis was a good win back then. San Antonio was a good win, I would say. New Orleans sucks because of all the injuries. Utah is trying to lose. This like winning 5 out of 7 here matters a lot more to me than even winning 6 in a row then, because of the caliber of opponents and the way that they're going about winning this. And by the way, like, with Max being in that starting group, I think that makes a great case for Bruce Brown, because like
Mm.
all of the stuff that Max is doing there, a healthy Bruce Brown does that stuff and is more offensively consistent than Max is. And then if you're able to keep Max in that trade, now all of a sudden you have Max coming off of the bench to maintain that defensive identity at the 2 spot. And like that again improves Austin no matter who was on the court with him. Bruce also has some juice, I think, on the ball too that Max
Yeah.
doesn't have. Like that, we'll get into trade stuff later, but I think what this stretch has done has really kind of hammered home. Hopefully, you never know if he's paying attention to these kinds of things and understands them, but I think hopefully it hammers home once again the kind of identity that the Lakers need to have. It's this bruising, and physical kind of defensive identity that can also get buckets when they absolutely have to. This is how you won a championship before. This is how you won the in-season tournament last year. This is how I get again. You're gonna have to return to this identity again this year, and I think Max has really kind of unlocked it.
He definitely has. I was just thinking your large adult son just started, and now like you've already benched him and gotten another player
I'm a
in.
tough dad.
Yeah,
Ask my kids. I'm a
you've
tough dad.
already got someone to like replace him
Yeah.
5 games later after he's played well. No, Bruce Brown would be. I think he was the fit that the Lakers they clearly wanted because I think they went after him
Yeah.
before
They thought they were
Indiana.
going to get him, and then Indiana
right.
crazy overpaid him.
Paid him, and then obviously traded him for Siakam, which turned out I think pretty well from them. But no, I think that like just off ball wing is who they're definitely looking for. Or part of this also, Anthony, that I think should be noted is LeBron's just playing a lot better. I mean, LeBron's I think
Yeah, he took
after
that break.
his break after the Atlanta game, which you know that's a tough one to go out on, and I think he put a lot into that Atlanta game, and there was some. I think he had his just own personal player meeting. LeBron is just so big that he just had his own meeting with himself. Three people in the room, LeBron himself and I in that room, and they I'm sure assess the situation. But he's come back and he's looked awesome. He does things to DeRozan that is not legal in a few countries. He just puts DeRozan
All the
away.
time.
But yeah, the Detroit game, I thought he played well actually in the Detroit game. They overpowered our guards in a way, and Detroit's a physical team. Also, Malik Beasley, 21 points. Does that guy just play well when he plays us? Just it's the most annoying. It was just the most annoying player to watch when he was on your team.
Can you blame
But
him though? Like Lakers fans hated him, and then they let him walk for nothing. Like if I were Malik Beasley, I would try to play my ass off against the Lakers too.
No, the frustrating part, Anthony, he's averaging like 17 a game on 40 plus shooting from three. He's having an incredible year.
Yeah, all right.
It's for the Pistons, but
Yeah, like I think he's a low stakes shooter. Like he's excellent when it doesn't matter. Like he's really good when it's like whatever. I guess he was pretty good for Milwaukee last year. But again though, like as you got closer to the playoffs and as the game started mattering a little bit more, like I kept on seeing more and more tweets from Milwaukee fans like, "Hey man, is Malik gonna make a shot? Like stop holding up that stupid follow through on misses. Get back on defense." And I was just like looking at it, I was like, yeah, I remember that.
Right, the follow through with the hip shake that he does.
Yeah.
When the games don't count. Yeah, that was a little frustrating. But no, LeBron's been great. He had another great game last night. I think he and Steph Anthony are like 1 and 2 and just understanding the assignment. Those two just every time they don't downplay it, they play it up even, which is awesome. And then LeBron closed it out by saying Christmas is ours, which is a little shot at the NFL, which I liked. But
tough to say that though, when like the NBA is like excited about the rating that game got, and then Netflix was like, actually 25 million people watch both of those shitty NFL games that we put on there.
I refuse to go to Netflix for sports. I refuse. I'm not
like
going to
look,
Netflix.
I'm the guy who has been a little concerned about the ratings. Here's my thing. You either care about ratings or you don't. Like to those to the other people out there who are covering the sport, you either care about them or you don't. Because the same people who when the ratings were bad, were like, oh well, people are like streaming games illegally, and like there's so many other things on, and that's not really how we should do the math anymore. And then the good rating came out, and they're like, see. It's like, no, all right, which is it? Do the ratings matter or they don't? I'm of the opinion that they do, because you want people to like be able to, you want sponsors to be able to have some kind of mathematical and statistical thing that they can point to that you could sell stuff on, right? And again, like, Odyssey is I told people about the new gig. Odyssey is moving me kind of into more of an executive role here as part of this new gig. And I have to care about ratings, because sponsors are going to be like, okay, how many people actually care about that Lakers game that you just spent an hour breaking down? How many people are actually tuned into this thing? And that's the thing in podcasting, is that like sponsors want to get behind podcasting. It's just that like the megaphones of the world, all of these other platforms that people put their RSS feeds on, they haven't been able to nail down what actually constitutes a download. And as such, sponsors are kind of reluctant to get behind podcasting in the way that they would if we had that figured out a little bit better. And if you're the NBA, if you're going to say, you either have to take the stance, which I think is a ridiculous one, but you either have to take the stance of ratings are fake, nobody knows, just enjoy the sport, move on. You can take that stance and then never care about ratings, even when they're good. Or, and this is the stance that I'm of, this is the opinion I'm of, is like, Ratings are always going to matter because we want to know how many people are actually watching this thing. That crowd and those ratings are going to tell you when you're doing things poorly or well. And if you respond to the things that you are doing well and you start to hammer down some of those things that you are doing well and get that momentum more consistently going in the positive direction, that's how your sport grows. And we should all be in the business of letting the sport grow, making the sport grow.
100%. And Adam Silver definitely cares about ratings. I mean, this is why the All-Star game is changing every single year. This is why we have this Emirates Cup. That's why we have this in-season tournament. These are things to get ratings boosted, right? These are reasons to add national TV games. I think you should always want to improve the sport. You always want to, add viewership. You want to always get engagement from fans. My only issue with the rating conversation, I understand it from people in the business or, are directly related to it or, have some type of impact from it, like you and I both do. But I think the idea that the NBA is going anywhere or that, the NFL is just going to take over and eat everybody and just, I guess swallow all of these sports in one. Like the NBA is not going anywhere. They just signed a bajillion-dollar TV extension.
Nobody was ever saying that the NBA was going to collapse, but you can't get lapped the way that the NBA was getting lapped by the NFL and not be like, all right, is there anything that we could learn from the NFL? You want to know what the lesson is from yesterday, Raj?
What is
You
that?
want more of these events, these tentpole Christmas Day events to be able that your fans know about year in, year out. And you want to
Sure.
be able to put your best product on the court in front of those eyes in that kind of a setting as you possibly can, as consistently as you can. And in those stretches between those tentpole events, you build up those marquee players and teams that are going to be playing in those tentpole events. This isn't fucking rocket science. This should be figured out by now. But Adam Silver is sitting here trying to be buddy with the NBPA, and it's like, no, man, your job is to grow the game. You did a good job selling this current TV deal, but Mark Cuban is out there telling people publicly and privately that, hey, we were all a little nervous about what the next TV deal is going to look like after this one. And that, Adam, is where you got to start figuring out this stuff, and we can't just put our head in the sand. And look, you're right. You're right to point out that he is trying these other things to try to create these tentpole things. But the reason that Christmas was as successful as it was because it brought that history of the sport into it. It brought that tradition into it. People are used to on Christmas tuning into basketball all game long. I thought it was brilliant that ESPN did that Disney thing. That Avery was absolutely zeroed in on that shit whole game long. She was all about Mickey Mouse giving Victor Wembanyama buckets. She loved it. And that's great. Like that, you try stuff like that out that actually markets the game to these different generations. But the first thing that you got to narrow down is how do you more consistently recreate the passion and the give a bleep that we saw in every single one of those basketball games from the morning all the way through to the nightcap.
That's why my whole thing on this is I think we do have a really good product. We just don't sell it well, right? And the most frustrating part of that Christmas Day, Anthony, was the halftime pregame. Like, what in the world were they talking about? Did not sell the game, did not sell the players. We had MJ, LeBron,
Stephen A. Smith.
LeBron MJ debates going on like in the middle of this. Malika Andrews said one stat about LeBron, and Stephen A took it as if she said she said something super destroying about Michael Jordan. Kendrick Perkins, I don't.
Stephen A is bad for the NBA. He just is.
No, but that's what I mean though. And I think that's where the part of this, the NFL, again, I don't watch football, but just from what I see and from the conversations that I see on Twitter, they sell the sport very well. But they sell team versus team. It feels like, Anthony, more than player versus player, which again is advantage to them. And I think when you have less regular season games, it just builds up the importance of every single one. The NBA will never get to that point where they can sell 1 out of 82, where the NFL can sell 1 out of 17. That's just an issue that they have with their sport. That's not going anywhere. But I do think there's a way to sell it better. But I still think some of this rating conversation is a lot of people who have it don't really care as much as it feels like they do online. But it is an issue. It is something that the NBA is looking at, Adam Silver is looking at, and there's ways to improve. It's just I think it's gotten to a weird place where either all or nothing on one side or the other
Yeah.
on the ratings conversation. So, but yesterday was awesome. The NBA went 4 for 4 on NBA Christmas games. The last game was, a blowout in Phoenix's favor. But other than that, those are 4 super exciting games. All of them
Yeah.
close, all with big teams, all with big time stars that played well.
I do hope though, and I tweeted this out when the numbers came out today. I do hope that one of the things that the NBA takes from that number that they got, best rating in 5 years, whatever it was, that like, yeah, the NFL dwarfed the league's number there. And it dwarfed Lakers Nuggets as well. It's going to continue to dwarf it. The NFL is at this point a perfect machine. It is just a ratings machine. It's easier to gamble on. Fantasy football is a monster. It's the perfect product because you only have 18 weeks of it, and then you have playoffs right from there. Every one of these games matter. I am never going to make the case that like the NBA should be getting NFL numbers because it's just not that kind of a product. However, I do think that the NBA should like figure out how can we create these moments because in today's age in today's TikTok age especially everybody's looking for viral moments. Everybody's looking for like the thing that people are going to be talking about. And I think Christmas is that thing that people talk about. I went to my in-laws. I went to my brother and sister-in-laws yesterday. And the first of the games was on between second game was on between Baltimore and Houston. And Baltimore absolutely beat the shit out of Houston. And it was a complete blowout. And I was like, well, hey, if this is kind of a blowout, do we mind putting on basketball here? And they were like, oh, who's playing? And I was like, well, I live here in Texas. I was like, Dallas is playing. Unfortunately, Luka got hurt, so that kind of took away
Yeah.
from some of the momentum and interest in the game from then on. But it was like, oh shit, yeah, let's put that on. This Texas team is getting their butts kicked. Let's put on like if again that is me just saying nice things about a sport.
Sure.
Like that is me just like being like, hey, like this game kind of sucks, can we put on this other one? And like it's all background noise for the most part anyway. Let's put can the Lakers or can the league find a non-Lakers Warriors product that like competes as background noise in those moments and outside of Christmas Day when we're kind of trained to care about that stuff. I think they need to do a better job of TNT nights. I think they need to do a better job of Saturday night. I don't know why the NBA doesn't own Saturday night. You could own Saturday night and you could carry it, especially once the NBA or the NFL is over, the NFL season's over. You could carry Saturday night on through into Sunday morning where you have those marquee ABC matchups starting in, I think it's like January, February. Like those are things that like the NBA needs to figure out a way to do that. And I think you're absolutely right to talk, comment on ESPN and their marketing of this, because you have a shitty pregame show. You have a halftime show that basically exists so that Stephen A. Smith can get a TikTok's worth of takes off. And then after the game, there isn't even a post-game like conversation about it. There's nothing. It's just like, we'll throw to Sports Center where Scott Van Pelt is going to jump immediately into NFL highlights. Like,
Right.
well, what are we doing? Like, ESPN, you're paying so much money for the sport. You may as well actually like do it justice.
Right. And, just my final thing on this, Anthony, is that I think the NBA kind of won the battle and lost the war with how that you were talking about the viral moments, and they really wanted to win the online war, right? The transactional war. The NBA is, relevant 365 days a year almost just because of this online transactional phase where a guy gets traded for a second rounder and it blows up, right? It's oh my god, they got this guy for a second rounder, and in reality that player really doesn't impact the game as much as the online attention that they did. And you saw this, I thought, even on Christmas they opened up, Anthony, with the Jimmy Butler trade request. Miami doesn't even play on Christmas, And like, I'm not saying don't break it down. I'm not saying that that's not something that should be mentioned. It's just that was their, I think, opening line, or at least their second spot on the block. It's just that's the stuff to me where I think there's a place where you can sell the sport better. There are young stars in the league that should be pushed. Shea Gilgeous-Alexander is awesome. OKC has way too few national TV games. Minnesota has Anthony Edwards. Like these are and Anthony Edwards starting to get commercials and stuff like that. But I think there's a way to sell these stars. Obviously, LeBron and Steph are still going to get the high ticket and get the viewership and all that. But there's a way to usher in the next generation in a way that I feel like we're not doing, where everything's a comparison and attack on the star. I'm not saying you have to push positive propaganda, but I think the way the NFL does it is awesome. And I've heard some of their pregame conversations, how they compare players, and that guy Collinsworth. I like Chris Collinsworth. Yeah, does a nice job to me, and the way he kind of speaks about players, and he pushes up Mahomes in a way where he doesn't compare him every second to Tom Brady. It just feels like
he compares every other quarterback to Mahomes.
All right, well, don't watch many of the other games.
Every time somebody like runs and throws a ball like slightly off platform, he's like, "Oh, did you see Patrick Mahomes there? Oh my god!" Anyway, let's wrap this up. We have a couple starred comments here, which will take us into some of the trade talk. So I'll go ahead and do the TV producer thing. That seems to be. All right, first one here comes from Justin Tyndall writing. Pelinka is absolutely gun shy since the Westbrook trade. D'Lo won't be a Laker next year. Beasley was gone. Beasley gone. Vando injured. We got a Western Conference Finals from pieces from the Westbrook trade, but nothing left from it. Don't expect Rob Pelinka to do anything. All right, here's what I'll say. I did kind of chuckle today because the big headline going around is that the Lakers are, quote, willing to move their first round picks for players who would improve their team. That's good to know. I think it would be bigger news if they weren't, but whatever. I digress. We need to, as a member of the Clicks Society, we need to get those clicks. I will say that I have heard nothing whatsoever about, from anybody close to the Lakers, around the league. The Lakers are going to do something at some point. And the Lakers currently sit 17-13. They are atop the Pacific Division. I need to see what the Clippers wind up doing tonight, because that would obviously change it by the time you guys are listening to this in the morning. But yeah, the Lakers are right there in the West. They're in that like 4 or 5 seed area. They have done, I think, enough, maybe not more than enough, but I think they've done enough to, in my opinion, prove to the front office that this thing is worth investing in.
Yeah.
I think that message has landed. Based on what I've heard, that message has landed with that front office, and they are going to be very active this deadline to try and go out and get a two-way wing, a big, and I think, depending on if they send out D'Angelo Russell, they know that they have to get some more creation to make up for his departure. One little tidbit here, Shams, I think the more notable thing that Shams reported is that the Lakers are looking for players who they can trade for and be upgrades now, and then will also be good for the next 3 to 5 years. I don't think that fully takes Jonas out of the picture because he's on a 3-year deal, but I do think like there's a reason he isn't a Laker now. And like, especially we are now, let's see, it's like 10 days after the unofficial start of trade season. Jonas is still not a Laker, and that's with AD now nursing an ankle injury. I think that's probably pretty noteworthy. And I haven't heard anything specifically. I continue to hear like that, Washington is asking for a little bit too much for Jonas because of the situation, because of the perceived desperation, and that the Lakers would prefer to ride that out. If Jonas was available for 1 second rounder and like Gabe Vincent, I think he would be a Laker right now. but that isn't what the asking price is right now, and the Lakers are not interested in going above it. So, but what do you think about the notion of like, you know, them potentially doing
It,
enough,
it,
as offensive as it is, that LeBron and AD need to prove themselves to Rob Pelinka, but the notion remains the reality that that is the case. What do you think they've done enough?
so it's funny. This is how I know I'm starting to understand, I guess, how the sausage is made a little more because I heard that Shams report, Anthony, and my first thought was, oh, you want a player that's good now and later? Shocking, like you want a young player that's will be good.
No. Yeah.
You want a player that's like 26 years old that can play now and play, later on. No, I think the Lakers are only 2 games back of the Mavs, who are absolutely looked at as title contenders. They're 3 or 4 games back of the 2 seed. You flip a few of these games here, and you're right there. As again, I look at it as if you're a team that has home court in the first round, you have a chance, especially if you have LeBron and AD on your team. I just think 3 straight road series are rough, but if you can get in that top 4 area. And LeBron has only missed 2 games. AD, I'm not even sure if he's missed a game. Maybe missed one during that. Maybe the Warriors one I would count as a missed game. But you look at it, 17 and 13. You're right. I think they have shown enough to invest in. I'm still kind of skeptical about what move they actually make or how many first round picks they throw in. I think 1 will definitely get put on the table. I think 2, it's gonna have quite a haul that needs to come back. But I agree with you. I think they will do something. My thing is, we've heard this for a while now, and that do something usually comes in February or it comes late January, which
Yeah.
a lot
At the
can change
earliest.
from a lot can change from now to then. And there's a trying to do the perfect deal type situation that I think goes on. This paralysis by analysis, however that phrase is said. And that's how I feel like this front office continues to move. Maybe we'll get we're adding Vanderbilt. That's our December move in January whenever Vanderbilt returns. So that's still my concern. I could see us back up big being, I'm still not a huge fan of Jonas Valanciunas, a name that you just mentioned, but I could see that being, I guess, the small move, the temporary move until they get to the big move in February. That's kind of, I don't see a big roster changing move coming or a huge kind of, multiple first round pick move coming in late December or early January.
I would be pretty surprised if they move multiple firsts in a trade this year.
Mm.
If they move multiple firsts, I think it would be part, unless I guess I'll rephrase that. I would be surprised if they move multiple. I'd be shocked, honestly, if they move multiple firsts for a player this year. In a trade, like it's like multiple firsts to Detroit, or not to Detroit, but to Brooklyn for Cam and Dorian and Dayron. Like, even there, I think that'd be kind of an overpay, but like it would be that kind of a situation where you're sending out multiple firsts for multiple, impact players. Um, but like Dorian's price has dipped below first round status. Dayron, it was never going to get them a first. And then Cam is like right at first round and some stuff beyond that, as I wrote the other day. So like I would be pretty surprised if the Lakers move all of the first round capital that they have at their disposal this year. It's just not how Rob really runs. And like that kind of goes back to the first part that the first point that Justin made there, right? Pelinka is absolutely gun shy since the Westbrook trade. So I've thought about this a lot over the last couple of days. My dad's in town, so he wants to talk about the Lakers a lot. And a point that gets made, George Santiago makes this in the Discord pretty often, but and I guess Pete has made it on the LFR pod too, is that like Rob is an agent, and his job as an agent was to get his clients what they want, right? And I think one thing that Jeannie kind of wants is to avoid a situation where she has to fire Rob Pelinka. And I think she is kind of okay with him being ultra conservative, because if he makes another move that backfires in any way whatsoever close to the way that the Russ thing did, she now has to have that difficult conversation and she has to make that difficult decision. And I don't think she wants to. So, um, like, if what Jeannie wants is for the boat to not be rocked and just to ride this out and get ready for the post LeBron era, that's what she's going to get. And if the Lakers don't do anything meaningful this year, I think the take to have from that, or the response to have from that, is okay. Jeannie wanted you to ride this out. Jeannie wants you in charge of the rebuild after LeBron, more so than she is interested in competing for a championship now. And I just, that'd be a difficult pill to swallow.
Yeah, I think that's the difficult part. Just, as a fan, I think you want your team being very strong in their decision making, and I think if you pick a path, go about it, as powerful and as strongly as you can. And if you're going to try to win this season, which I think you should, you have LeBron James and Anthony Davis on your team, then go for it. Go get the deal. Go get a deal done. If you're and you saw this with the Warriors, and they won a title doing this, but it still has backfired. But they won the title, and like, okay, let's prepare for the post Steph era. Like, we're gonna get this. This is our plan. We have these young guys, and it blew up in their face. Like, you can't do two things at once. It's very tough. The Spurs are like the closest one that did it, and they kind of stole Kawhi Leonard from Indiana with George Hill, and were able to blend two timelines per se. Tim Duncan was still solid and contributing, but I hope the Lakers just go all in on this era. And again, Shams mentioned 3 first rounders. I think what he meant was the Lakers have 3 first, but they can only trade 2. I'm guessing is what he meant. But just go ahead and invest in this. Give LeBron and AD the best chance that they have, at least this year. You have a team that's at least good enough. The, I guess, superpowered team is Boston, and even there they have some flaws. They have some players that are injury riddled at times. So I don't know. I hope that's not the case, Anthony. I hope there's a level of aggressiveness that they have, and there's a level of aggression you need as a GM to go make moves like they did with the Russ deal a few seasons ago. So I'm not sure. I hope that's not the case, and I think Jeannie is as hands off as she says she is. I think she lets Rob make these decisions until someone else has to, which I don't know if that's good or bad. I think that's what's happening.
What I will say, like, on again to that first point about how gun shy Pelinka is, that's an organizational thing, right? Like, they look for consensus, or as close as they can get to consensus on all of these, especially with that upper ring of people, right? Jeannie, Rob, Linda, Kurt, and Tim. Like, if they
Plus
aren't on the
others.
same page about the decision, it doesn't get made. Or you kind of drag your feet on it till eventually it gets made, as we kind of saw with like JJ Redick, somebody who, like, most people in the organization liked from the get, wanted to be proven that they were right to like him from the get, and it still took like a month and a half to hire the guy. Like, I think that is a pretty clear explainer on the way that the Lakers operate as an organization. They were like, look, probably shouldn't have fired Frank. The Darvin Ham thing only lasting a couple years doesn't look great for us. We absolutely have to nail this next hire, or protect ourselves from it backfiring if it does. And I think that's why it took so long to eventually hire JJ. And I think that's kind of how that's why they haven't been able to make a move for a couple of transaction windows in a row now, involving actual NBA players, because it's like, yeah, but like, if this doesn't work out, then what does that mean for the way that we operate? Like, Lakers fans are getting really kind of frustrated with how this is going. If we're going to do something, we either need to all be on the same page on it, or those of us who are for it need to find a way to protect ourselves from it backfiring if it does. And I think that's just like that's no way to operate as an organization. Like, there has to be some bravery involved. There has to be some cojones involved, and a willingness sometimes to, Jerry West is the guy that like the Lakers couldn't stand even at, at the time of his passing. Jerry West famously would say, if you do this, I will quit. I will retire. I will no longer be here if you do this. He said that about the Warriors trading Klay Thompson for Kevin Love. Famously, he's just like, if you do this, I am washing my hands. I do not want anything to do with an organization that is willing to do that. And they didn't do it, right? And it's like, there needs to be somebody, some voice in the organization that has that kind of belief in self and belief in what they know about the sport to be able to say, if we don't like the fact that this organization that again props itself up with Mamba mentality and has all kinds of posters like you have behind you all over the damn building. If that organization is going to, market itself that way and preach to the church of Kobe, if you're going to do all that, then you actually have to follow it up with some action. Because if there was one thing we could say about Kobe is that he never shied away from the moment. You might disagree with the shot he took. You might disagree with his approach to some of those late game situations, but you never sat there and said, "Ooh, well, Kobe's a little afraid of this moment." That's the part of this that I've grown kind of sick of over the last couple of years.
I just want to add one point. I've heard Pete made this point on his pod, and I've spoken about how the Bus brothers are always right next to me at these South Bay games, and that's another part of this too, right? Those first round picks that are traded are theirs, basically, right? That's the part where they have power with, and that's where they get to make decisions in the franchise and get to show, I guess, what they're worth, to the franchise and make their impact. That's probably another part of this as well, where these trades have to go through that filter. Where hey, I know I know you've been picking at the end of the draft, and I know we've been trading all those young guys away, but is it cool if we trade 2 more for Dorian Finney-Smith and Cam Johnson? And those dudes are probably like, no, I'm not saying they have full autonomy here, but I think there's a part of that as well, where the Bus brothers are another. You mentioned all those names, Rob, Tim, Jeannie, all decision makers. Those Bus brothers have a say in how this goes too, which is
a little
probably
bit less than those other names that I mentioned, but yeah,
sure. But still, I'm sure they make their voice heard when these picks are kind of part of the conversation.
Yeah. J1 writes, can Levine say he'll only waive his trade bonus for the Lakers? He can. The Levine thing is like damn near impossible, without sending out multiple parts of he was great tonight. Yeah.
He was awesome
in a loss. But like, sure. To the Hawks, but like they would have to send out multiple parts of their rotation for Zach LaVine. And they arrived here, and look, I find myself at times also wondering if they were operating in the prior CBA, I would be all aboard the LaVine trade because you'd have a lot more flexibility, even above the luxury tax to fill out the rest of your roster after you trade for Zach LaVine. But when you trade for Zach LaVine and you get to into right up against the second apron, and we know that the Lakers are not going to go into the second apron. And you don't, you can't sign players who made more than the mid-level exception. Before they were bought out, you can't take back more money in a trade if you're above the first apron. There's just like all of these things that like trading for Zach LaVine. If you trade for Zach LaVine, you better be damn sure that is a team that is going to win a championship that season. And I just don't think that he gets the Lakers there. Great player, good player, fun player, but he doesn't defend well enough for me to say like, okay, yeah, definitely go out and get that guy.
If he had a just different contract, if he made like $30 million a year, I would totally be on it. But yeah, that contract is just an albatross, and I would highly doubt the Lakers trade for him.
Yep. All right. Justin Tyndall writes, when we are kids and your parents say it's up to you if you want to do your homework, you do it. That's what Jeannie says. Okay, Rob, it's up to you if you want to do your homework. Like another version of that is that like, and I think this is probably a foundational issue with the way that the Lakers are run, is that like Rob gets to tell Jeannie how great a job he is doing, and she believes him at every turn. And it's like, if there's never going to be any accountability there, um, from on high to the lead basketball decision maker, that's how you see a carryover of the issues that have kind of hurt the Lakers in the Rob Pelinka era. Andre Miller writes, Rob is Kobe's agent. He always intended to waste LeBron's time here. No titles. 2020 was his only mistake. Quickly fix that, didn't he? Sabotage. I look.
That'd be impressive, actually. Very impressive if that was on purpose. If this was planned and premedicated. Yeah.
I'm gonna say this. I love this conspiracy theory. I do. Like I just can't help but love it. I can't help but respect it. I can't. I don't think it's true, but it's just like, it's just too perfect. Where they're like, guys, we just built Kobe 3 statues. We cannot tell LeBron pressing up Kobe. Like,
You think when LeBron missed that 3 versus Detroit, Rob just like, yes, just a little mini fist bump, like just a tiny.
man,
Just,
thank goodness. The whole time Russ is there, he's like, oh, like it's the Drake
yeah.
on the sideline meme where he's like, oh gosh, this isn't working, man. Shoot, that's too bad.
Yeah.
Ah,
No way.
Joe writes, why care about first when you can trade AR and AD for multiple firsts if you want to start a rebuild? I like, that's the other thing here is like, you need to do something. I'm sick of this, and like you said earlier about the Golden State Warriors, like these organizations that are stuck in neutral just wind up getting passed one way or the other by the teams that are more willing to do what it takes to lose enough to get the transcendent star in the draft, or those teams that are willing to go for it and try to compete for a championship now. If you're stuck in neutral, then you aren't really, one way or the other. You're getting passed by multiple teams, no matter what it is that you're trying to accomplish. And this notion that like there is a painless version of the post LeBron era, like,
Nope.
no, it. You mentioned the Spurs is the only example of the team that was able to do the 2 timeline thing. You know how bad the Spurs have been for how long, that like even now they have Victor
Yeah.
Wembanyama, who was widely considered the best prospect in the history of the sport since like Kareem and since LeBron. Like, he is of that echelon of player. You go to Spurs games and it's empty for large chunks of the game because the post Duncan and Kawhi era was so ugly that fan base got so apathetic that Austin, the city I live in, was like, well, if y'all don't want to go watch them, can we just have them? And
Yeah.
like there is no soft landing after you try to compete for championships. That's why you have to optimize that window as best you can, so that when you are in the muck of it after those windows are over or after those windows close, you look back on it, it's like, okay, it was worth it. It's like, after, unfortunately, we've been living through it here with the LeBron and AD thing, right? Where like things got ugly because like AD was hurt right after the championship, and they and like, because of circumstances, it was like anytime anybody would be like, was the AD trade worth it? Like, it was like, fuck yeah, it was. We won a
Yeah.
championship. That was the 2019-20. That's one of my favorite teams across sports of all time. And it's like, you ride that wave, and then eventually when that wave gets you to shore, you figure it out, you time it out again, and you try to ride the next set of waves that roll in. And this weird thing that the Lakers are trying to do here, where it's like, yeah, we want to try to compete now, but also we want, to be set up for after LeBron. It's like, you're not going to the picks that you're going to have after LeBron aren't going to be very good, because LeBron is still going to be on your team and Anthony Davis is still going to be on your team. You're not going to be bad enough to be at the top of the draft. And it's like, okay. And then if you're, we've seen what like Dalton Connect looks like at 17. Yeah, he has flashes and stuff like that, but I'm not going to buy a Dalton Connect jersey. My kids aren't going to buy a Dalton Connect jersey. That's never happening. Like I'm fine with them trading him now. I don't care. Like you go if the Nets were like, we want Dalton for Cam, I'd be like, okay, cool, fine. That gives me a better chance of winning a championship with LeBron.
Yeah,
Dalton isn't giving you that chance.
for sure. Yeah, there's definitely no soft landing, after, LeBron leaves or retires or whatever he, decides to do. And I guess the next step would be trading AD, which I just don't think I would highly doubt the organization has a stomach for. I guess Spurs fans would say, Anthony, if Kawhi just didn't get pissed off for no reason, maybe, he's our franchise guy and we kind of ride a little bit higher into the sunset without Tim Duncan. No, but to your point, there's a level of losing that just has to occur for you to hit the next level. You saw it with OKC, you see it with all the teams, right? Boston kind of skipped the line because they made a just generational trade with the Nets, but even then they had to go through these 35 to 40 win seasons. But yeah, I'm with you. Go in, on this team and then figure out the next step once you get to that bridge. It just feels like we're staring at the bridge and we're like 10 miles away going, how do we cross it? And we're not close to that bridge yet.
I think they're closer to like that. I it depends on what analogy you're using there, but I don't think I'm watching the Western Conference on a nightly basis. There isn't a team that I think the Lakers have no chance against in a series.
Not at all.
Even as currently constructed, let alone if they make the necessary improvements here, right? If you somehow wind up with Cam Johnson, if you wind up with Bruce Brown, and then if you have enough left over to improve your backup center situation, and like that's a squad that I think could compete with any, not just compete, but could beat any team in the West, and even go toe to toe with Boston. Boston's really bleeping good, and they're going to beat you with math. But that math we see every year fall short in the playoffs. The math is different in the playoffs.
100%.
And like I don't think this Lakers team is so far off. It's what I said back when when we kept on getting excuse after excuse after excuse for the Lakers to not trade Russell Westbrook. Like I said back then, I don't think the Lakers are as far away as the front office would like you to believe they are. And I think we're back in that boat now, where like I think the front office would kind of sort of prefer that everybody would be a lot more hopeless, feel a lot more hopeless towards this team than I currently feel, because we just saw the Lakers beat Golden State in Golden State without Anthony Davis, essentially. We've seen them beat Memphis. We've seen them, like, the only team that routinely kicks their ass is Denver, and Denver looks like shit this year. My buddies at DNVR, like every game, they look like they're drinking out of brown paper bags because of how like depressing this season has been for them. And like maybe some other team gets in there and makes like this miracle trade that makes them a buzzsaw. But that team could also be the Lakers, Like nobody thought 2019, at the beginning of the 2019-2020 season, nobody thought that team was going to go out and become the dominant playoff team that they wound up being. Bubble notwithstanding, that team at the beginning of the season, I remember like, I think I kind of, obviously Anthony Davis, LeBron James are pretty damn good from there. Had questions about Kuz, had questions about KCP, wasn't in love with the Dwight and Rondo pickups. And then over the course of the year, like, slowly and steadily, like, oh shit, like, look at this. And then they beat the Clippers and Bucks back to back. You're like, oh my God. And then the whole world fell apart. But then when the bubble started back up and you started, you saw what the Lakers did to the Blazers, you saw what the Lakers did even to like Houston and those squads. And then when they got there against Miami, it was like, this team is incredible. They were up in a clinching game. Miami was hurt and stuff like that, but like they were up in a finals clinching game by 40 points.
Yeah.
Like nobody thought that team was capable of that at the beginning of the year. And yet they arrived there. And I think like this year, now I don't think this team can maybe get to that team's level because LeBron is obviously a different player at this stage of his career than he was then. But I do think that this team is a lot more capable than a very conservative front office maybe thinks.
Right, and I guess the same formula that worked 4 years ago isn't the exact, one that will work today, but I guess the point stands that the Lakers have a chance to have the 2 best players in any series they play, right?
Yeah.
Jokic, whatever, withstanding, but you go after that, Shea, Luka, all the other Curry, who's at the level that he's at. There's LeBron and AD can outplay them at least single game, let alone a series. So hopefully that's still the thinking of the front office.
Yep. J1 again, Rui, D'Lo, Gabe, JHS in seconds for Levine, Craig, and THT. I'm out once you mention THT. No,
he's playing. He's become
never again.
He's become a bucket off their bench.
Yeah.
I've enjoyed following his
Congrats,
reemergence into the
THT.
NBA.
But no, never again. Never, ever, ever. Because then, like, they're gonna trade for THT, and then they'll be like, "Well, what if we have to choose between THT and Austin?"
No, stop, stop it.
Andrew F. Would you trade AR filler in first for Spider or Spider or Buck? Yeah, but that neither of those trades would ever be on the table.
Yeah, no.
Devin Booker, like, they would trade KD before they trade Booker, and I think Mitchell, like, they would trade.
You would need to send like Anthony Davis, and even then, like they probably
Like you would like Cleveland could clone LeBron James, and he's the only player, like, clone young LeBron James. That's the only player that they would not trade before before Donovan Mitchell. He means so much to that organization. Like, he's not going anywhere.
right.
I think eventually they move Garland, because I don't love the Garland Mitchell combo in a playoff setting. Even with the length and athleticism that Cleveland has, but they are never, ever, 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 ever moving Donovan Mitchell.
I'll throw a quick hot take to you, Anthony. I don't really do a lot of hot takes, but I feel like Donovan Mitchell would be the best player in a Cavs Boston series. Am I wrong?
Yeah,
I'm wrong. Donovan Mitchell is not the best player in a Cavs Boston series. I think he's better than Tatum. I'd put him ahead.
offensively for sure. No, I'm more thinking Jaylen Brown, but
Wow. Okay.
Because Jaylen is so good defensively in the playoffs.
Jalen's good.
He's such a monster defensively. Like, when you're allowed to play more physically on the perimeter in the playoffs, Jaylen is such a freaking monster, and he's physical enough to withstand that physical play in the postseason too. It's close. Like, I think you're talking about 1A, 1B, 1C kind of a situation here.
Yeah.
But I just, Jaylen, like, it wasn't just like a bit for me. That whole, is Tatum better than Brown? Like, I truly believe Brown in a playoff setting is just better than Jason Tatum.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I just think Mitchell's ability to like drop 45 and 40 on just consistent basis and be your whole team's offensive, universe. I just put that in high regard, and I'm super high on Mitchell. But yeah, I think that's why I think the Cavs are the only team that really has an actual shot against them, because they have a player that can, I guess, be the best player in the series versus them.
Giannis exists.
Oh, right. Yeah. I guess I'm not as high on Milwaukee. I guess I just,
the rest of their team is a bit of a mess, right? Because Connaughton has really fallen off of a cliff, and
Dame isn't Dame. Yeah,
Dame
Brook
isn't
Lopez
quite
is
Dame.
38. Middleton is. I'm not sure we'll ever go back
But, like,
healthy this season.
Yeah, like, the best player in a series would still be Giannis there.
Fair.
So. All right. That is going to do it here for this nice and long. I know because of the holiday, I felt like we owed you guys a nice long show, and we delivered an hour and almost 30 minutes here. So I'm going to let Raj get back to what is left of his holiday week and all of that good stuff. And I'm going to let you guys get back to it as well. A quick reminder, please do hit that subscribe button here on YouTube. Please hit that like button here on YouTube as well. Tell your friends about the show. All of that good stuff. And then I'm probably not going to do a lowdown because there isn't any new news. So I'm going to break this up into an extra episode in your guys' feeds instead. And I'm probably going to break up the ratings conversation for YouTube as well, because that is I think that's about as good a conversation as you're going to get about it. So check all that stuff out. Hit that subscribe button, like button, tell your friends. Enjoy the rest of your guys' weeks. That is going to do it here for this week, this holiday week of the Lakers Lounge podcast. And we will talk to you guys again on Sunday. Have a good one, everybody.
Bye, everyone.